My name is Nathan, and I am a successful businessman. Over the years, I've built my business empire through keen business sense and countless all-nighters. To the untrained eye, I have it all: money, status, fame, and a perfect family. My wife, Vanessa, is a well-known socialite whose beauty and elegance have made her highly visible in high society. Whether it's a charity dinner or a private party, Vanessa is always the center of attention with her smart demeanor and intelligent conversation. As her husband, I am very proud of her. Throughout our marriage, I have always been obedient to Vanessa and supported her career in every way I could. I was always the first to applaud her social successes. We attend charity events together and show our love for each other on camera. However, underneath all the glamour and glitz, our life is not as perfect as it seems, and Vanessa's neglect of her family and her growing indifference have made me feel a little uneasy. Nevertheless, I still have faith in our marriage and believe that this is just a hiccup in our married life that will pass. In our mansion, the servants were busy preparing dinner while I was in my study taking care of company business. Through the window, I saw Vanessa laughing with her friends in the garden. The sun was shining on her, and her smile was so bright that I felt lucky to have her again. But what I didn't realize was that this was just the calm before the storm. Everything that seemed perfect was about to be shattered by a shocking secret. It was a story I never thought would happen to me. A story of betrayal, intrigue, and redemption. As time went on, I began to notice some changes in Vanessa's behavior. She began attending more private parties, often late at night. Whenever I asked her where she was going, she would always say nothing, or use the excuse that she was at work. At first, I didn't think much of it, thinking it was just an inevitable result of her expanding social circle. Gradually, however, I realized that she was neglecting her family more and more. She often missed our family dinners and was no longer interested in her children's schooling and life. At the same time, she was increasingly active on social media, posting photos of herself at various events. What disturbed me was that in these photographs, I noticed that a man named Julian was always at Vanessa's side. There seemed to be an unspoken closeness between them, which made me feel uncomfortable. But I told myself that maybe it was just Vanessa's work partner, and I shouldn't think too much about it. However, as time went on, my suspicions grew stronger and Vanessa began to receive frequent late-night phone calls, after which she would always leave the house in a hurry, even on the few occasions when we were together. When I tried to find out why, she was always evasive or simply silent in response to my questions. I began to feel that the distance between us was getting farther and farther. What was once a conversation has now become a silence. I tried hard to salvage our relationship and planned a romantic vacation in the hope of rekindling our love. But to my disappointment, Vanessa canceled the trip the day before we were to leave, citing work as the reason. An unspeakable panic and uneasiness began to build up inside me. I didn't want to believe that our marriage was in trouble, and I didn't want to doubt Vanessa's loyalty to me. But the truth was in front of me, and I could no longer fool myself that there was an invisible gap between us. In search of inner peace, I buried myself in my work, hoping to numb my nerves by keeping busy. But late at night, as I lay in my empty bed, the image of Vanessa and Julian together always came to my mind. I began to suspect that maybe I didn't know Vanessa as well as I thought I did, and that behind the glamour of our marriage there was a secret that I had never thought of. As my suspicions deepened, I decided to take action to find out what was going on. I knew that questioning Vanessa would only make her more defensive and make our relationship worse. I needed to find hard evidence to confirm my suspicions. So, I reached out to my old friend Cassidy, a private investigator. At my request, he gladly accepted the case. I told him about Vanessa's schedule and the basics of Julian's life, hoping he could help me get to the bottom of it. For the next few weeks, I tried to act as normal as possible, not asking too many questions about Vanessa's whereabouts. But in private, I kept an eye on Cassidy's investigation. When he sent me photos or recordings, my heart skipped a beat, fearing that I would discover something terrible. Finally, one rainy night, Cassidy handed me a thick bag of papers. He told me that the contents might shock and upset me, but that it was the truth. I opened the bag with a shudder, and inside was a picture of Vanessa and Julian on a date. From the intimacy of their behavior and the way they looked at each other, I could no longer fool myself that my wife had betrayed our marriage. That night, I looked at those photos over and over again in my study, replaying in my mind every bit of our past. I remembered our first meeting, the happy smile on her face when I proposed to her, and every anniversary we spent together. And now, it's all turned into a cruel joke. I felt a wave of heartbreaking despair. I didn't understand why Vanessa was doing this to me. Was our marriage just a stepping stone to high society for her? Did my love for her mean nothing to her? Questions swirled in my head, but I couldn't find any answers. The next morning, I woke up on the sofa. The photos were still scattered on the coffee table. The sunlight streaming in through the cracks in the curtains stung my eyes. I knew I couldn't pretend everything was normal anymore. I had to make a choice, either to continue to sink into this marriage of lies or bravely face the truth, no matter how cruel it is. After long contemplation, I made up my mind. I was going to find the truth myself, even if it would break my heart into pieces, because I realized that only by facing the truth could I rebuild a new life amidst the rubble. I got myself together, called Cassidy, and told him I was ready to start a positive investigation of Vanessa and Julian. At the moment I made the decision, I felt more relieved than ever. Even though I knew in my heart that what I was about to face might be an excruciatingly painful truth, at least I didn't have to continue to suffer through lies and pretenses. I started a full-scale surveillance program on Vanessa's whereabouts. With Cassidy's help, I installed miniature cameras in her neighborhoods, listened to her phone calls, and even tracked her car's GPS. I knew it might be a violation of her freedom, but I had no choice. I had to get to the bottom of this. Through weeks of research, I gradually pieced together a story that broke my heart. It turns out that Vanessa and Julian were lovers in college, but due to family objections, they eventually broke up. Then Vanessa met me, and we fell in love quickly and got married. But deep down, she never really forgot Julian. As time went by, Vanessa's social status rose, and she and Julian met again. The old flame of love was rekindled in both of them, and they began to meet frequently, without me, their nominal husband, knowing anything about it. From the photos and recordings, I could sense a passion between them that Vanessa had never shown in our married life. My heart was filled with anger, sadness, and resentment. I don't understand why Vanessa betrayed our marriage and my deep love and devotion to her. If she had already lost her passion for me, why didn't she just file for divorce, but chose to cheat in this way? Whenever I think of this, my heart aches like a knife. But in addition to sadness, I am more powerless. I had given everything to this marriage, but what I got in return was my wife's betrayal. I feel like a hurdler who keeps falling down. No matter how hard I try to maintain this relationship, the reality is always cruel to knock me down. I knew I had to make a choice. Continuing like this would only make me more miserable. I decided to confront Vanessa face to face at a social event, even if it might lead to some unpleasant consequences. At the dinner, I took out the photos and recordings and confronted Vanessa in front of everyone. She denied it at first, but eventually broke down in front of the hard facts. In front of everyone's shocked eyes, she confessed her relationship with Julian and said she had lost her love for me. At that moment, I felt like my whole world had collapsed. The marriage I was once so proud of was just an empty one built on lies. I declared the end of our marriage and immediately moved out of our home. For the next few days, I locked myself up in companies and hotel rooms, trying to numb myself with work and alcohol. But no matter how hard I tried, images of Vanessa and Julian together kept popping into my head. I began to wonder if I was just a stepping stone to Vanessa's high life from the very beginning, and our marriage was just a magnificent lie. After I announced the news of my divorce, my life was thrown into complete chaos. On the one hand, I had to deal with all the legal issues brought about by the divorce, such as the division of property, child support, etc. On the other hand, I also had to deal with internal battles and questions within the family. On the other hand, I had to deal with internal family battles and questions. As the heir to the family business, my marital status was always in the spotlight. My father had always hoped that I would be able to create a perfect family with Vanessa to strengthen our position in the upper echelons of society. Now, my divorce has cast a shadow over the family. My father was very unhappy with my decision. In his opinion, I should have compromised myself for the good of the family, even if I had to put up with my wife's betrayal. He thought that I was too selfish to care about my own feelings without considering the impact of the divorce on the family's reputation. My siblings are also divided on the matter. Some supported me in fighting for my own happiness, while others thought I shouldn't publicize the family's shame. My eldest brother told me bluntly that if I insisted on divorce, I would lose the support of the family. I feel more stressed and isolated than ever before. I always thought that my family would be my strongest support, but now I have to struggle with their accusations and questions. For help, I turned to Cassidy, who is not only a great detective, but also my best friend of many years. He gave me the most unselfish support and advice during a difficult time. With Cassidy's assistance, I began working on the divorce. We went through all of Vanessa's and my assets and drew up a fair and equitable division. At the same time, I secured custody of the children. As a father, I couldn't bear the thought of them growing up in a broken home. But what I didn't expect was that in the process, I found out some unknown secrets about my father and elder brother. It turned out that they had been tampering with the company's accounts, misrepresenting profits, and evading taxes. All of this was to satisfy their extravagant lifestyles and unspeakable deals. I was shocked and angry. I always thought that my father and elder brother were my role models, the pillars of the family. But now, I realized that their morals had long since degenerated, and their so-called family interests were just a cover for their personal gains. Cassidy advised me to collect the evidence for future use. He told me that in this complicated family struggle, I had to have my own leverage, or else I would become a victim of someone else's game. I took his advice and started secretly investigating what my father and brother were doing. I knew that this could lead me into another bloodbath, but I had no choice. I couldn't allow their corrupt behavior to plague the company and the family, and I had to do justice to the interests they had sacrificed. I felt physically and mentally exhausted from the stress of the divorce and the family game, but I knew I had to stay strong. Because only by uncovering the truth and clearing my name can I rebuild a new life for myself amidst the ruins. After the trauma of divorce and the shock of family infighting, I felt I had become numb. Once I thought that marriage and family were a safe haven in life, but now I realized that it was just a beautiful lie. But I didn't give up. Deep down, a voice inside me kept telling me that I couldn't let Vanessa and Julian get away with this. Their betrayal had cost me everything, and I couldn't allow them to go on living a carefree life. I began to recall some celebrity revenge stories in business and politics, hoping to find some inspiration from them. There was once an entrepreneur who, after being betrayed by his partner, spent 10 years to make him lose his reputation and bankrupt his company through various means. There was also a politician who, after being framed by a colleague, used his connections and power to expose the other party's corrupt behavior and sent him to jail. These stories made me realize that revenge is a long and complicated process that requires patience, intelligence, and skill. I could not expect a quick fix, but rather a step-by-step approach. I started by digging deeper into Julian's background. Through visiting some old friends in the financial circle, I realized that Julian had many loopholes in his business empire. For example, when he acquired a listed company, he was suspected of insider trading, which led to drastic fluctuations in the stock price, and many small shareholders lost a lot of money as a result. For example, when he developed a large real estate project, there were serious irregularities, which had a serious impact on the lives of local residents. I know, these are excellent breakthroughs. If I could gather hard evidence, not only could I ruin Julian's reputation, but I could put him behind bars. So, I set about deploying. I hired a team of professional private detectives to investigate Julian's business activities. They pretended to be various identities and penetrated into Julian's company to get first-hand insider information. They also followed Julian's daily movements and filmed his secret meetings with suspicious characters. At the same time, I also used my network to find some business people who had cooperated or had conflicts with Julian. I patiently listened to their stories and found out a lot of Julian's dark secrets. One entrepreneur told me that Julian once bribed a government official to get the right to develop a piece of land. Another ex-partner revealed that Julian had committed serious financial fraud, misrepresenting profits and evading taxes. I wrote down all these clues and began to form a huge web. I knew that only when I had enough leverage would I be able to take down Julian's business empire. In dealing with Vanessa, I took a more subtle and psychological approach. I purposely posted hints of my new relationship on social media and was even photographed laughing and joking with a female companion at an upscale restaurant. I hoped to provoke Vanessa's jealousy and anxiety and make her realize that she had lost me for good. Sure enough, it wasn't long before I received a text message from Vanessa. In a nostalgic tone, she inquired about my life and expressed her desire to meet up and catch up. I knew that this was the moment I had been waiting for. When I met with Vanessa, I was courteous, but with a hint of detachment, suggesting that I was over my divorce and enjoying a new life. I hinted that I had gotten over my divorce and was enjoying a new life, and Vanessa looked surprised and confused, as she couldn't seem to understand how I could let go of the past so easily. I laughed secretly, wondering how she would feel if she knew I was acting. But I can't reveal my disguise, because I have a bigger plan. Over the next few days, I began to demonstrate Julian's problems in front of Vanessa, both consciously and unconsciously. I first pretended to mention Julian's company's financial crisis, and then in a concerned tone, asked Vanessa if she knew about some of Julian's business misbehavior. I also purposely sent some photos and recordings collected by the private detective to Vanessa anonymously, so that she could see and hear Julian's misdeeds with her own eyes and ears. Gradually, I could sense that Vanessa's trust in Julian was beginning to waver. She began to question Julian frequently and even tried to contact some of Julian's ex-partners to verify the information I had provided. Julian, on the other hand, became more and more irritable and impatient, accusing Vanessa of interfering in his career and threatening to break off the relationship. Seeing the cracks in their relationship, I knew that my plan was getting closer to success. But I wasn't satisfied because I wanted not just their breakup, but their total destruction. Under my careful planning, Julian's business empire began to experience a massive crisis. His company's stock price plummeted after a series of scandals involving financial fraud and irregularities. He is also facing jail time for insider trading and bribery charges. Meanwhile, Vanessa is ostracized by her social circle because of her relationship with Julian. Her reputation is in tatters, and she can never return to her old life. When I saw them walking down the aisle of the courtroom with disheveled faces, I finally felt a twinge of twisted pleasure. They were once so high and mighty, but now they had fallen to such a state, all because of their betrayal. But I knew that my quest for vengeance wasn't over yet. Because besides Vanessa and Julian, I had a bigger target in mind, and that was my family. It was their hypocrisy that made me who I am today. I want them to feel the taste of betrayal and betrayal. I didn't stop at Julian and Vanessa's betrayal, because in the course of my revenge, I accidentally discovered some secrets about my family that made me re-examine my life and my family. In the course of my revenge, I accidentally discovered some secrets about my family that made me re-examine my life and my family. It turns out that underneath my father's and my elder brother's glamorous appearances, there are a lot of unseemly activities. They use the family business as a cover to engage in a variety of illegal activities, such as tax evasion, bribery, and even money laundering. These activities not only brought great risks to the company, but also made countless innocent people suffer losses. What shocked me even more was that my family was not as supportive of my marriage as they appeared to be, but had made some kind of deal with Vanessa and Julian behind the scenes. They used my marriage as a bargaining chip for their own benefit, with no regard for my feelings or my dignity. All the clues point to the fact that I may be just a pawn in their elaborate scheme, a tool to maintain harmony on the surface, but to fulfill their selfish desires. These discoveries made me feel angry and sad. I always thought I was fighting for my family, sacrificing for my family, but now it seems that I am nothing but a ridiculous puppet, a fool at the mercy of others. But I knew that anger and sadness would not solve the problem. If I wanted to truly find my life, I had to unmask my family once and for all, no matter what the cost. So, I started to investigate my father's and my brother's behavior in secret. I used the intelligence network that I had built up when I was avenging Julian to gather evidence of their crimes. I also used Cassidy's help to conduct a full financial audit of the family business, which uncovered numerous financial loopholes and fraudulent practices. At the same time, I also began to repair my relationship with some of my old subordinates and partners. Through them, I learned about my father's and my brother's notoriety in the business world, and how they used their tactics to suppress their competitors and monopolize the market. Gradually, a vast criminal network unfolded before me. My family, the family I was once so proud of, was built on such a filthy and criminal foundation, and I, as a member of this family, could not be blamed. I began to fall into deep self-doubt and denial. I didn't know what I had worked so hard for all these years and what the value of my life should be. At one point, I even wanted to give up, leave this place of wrongdoing, and go to a new life. But I finally made up my mind to take responsibility for the mistakes of the past and to seek justice for those who had been victimized by our family. I knew that it would be a tough battle and that I might lose everything, including my family, my position, and my wealth, but I have no choice, because this is the only way I can atone for my sins and redeem myself. I began to prepare for the final blow against the family. I organized all the evidence I had collected into a book and prepared to expose my father and elder brother's crimes in front of the family at a family meeting. I also contacted some friends in the media and law enforcement, hoping that they would be able to support me and help me at the critical moment. I knew that the outcome of this battle would determine my fate. If I succeeded, I would be completely free from the shackles of the past and start a brand new life. But if I failed, I might lose my freedom forever, even my life. But no matter what the outcome is, I am ready for it. Because I understand that real life is not about pursuing fame and benefits, but about facing the truth and fighting for your beliefs. Even if I end up with nothing, as long as I have a clear conscience, that's enough. In the process of uncovering the family conspiracy, I have been in a great deal of inner turmoil. On the one hand, I knew that I was doing the right and necessary thing, which was to bring the truth to light and to make sure that those who had committed the crimes would be punished appropriately. But on the other hand, I couldn't completely free myself from my emotional ties to my family, especially to my father and elder brother. After all, they are my closest relatives, the people I grew up with and lived with. No matter what they have done, they still occupy an important place in my heart. Exposing their crimes would be tantamount to destroying the last shred of love between us, and that pains me to no end. I began to recall over and over again the time I spent with my father and older brother. When I was a child, my father used to take me to the office and let me sit in his office chair, pretending that I was a successful businessman. My older brother always gave me encouragement and support when I was in trouble and helped me regain my confidence. These beautiful memories have now become the shackles of my heart, making it difficult for me to walk on the path of revenge. I also tried to communicate with my father and elder brother in the hope that they would realize their own mistakes and take the initiative to assume responsibility to prevent the situation from deteriorating. But to my disappointment, instead of showing any remorse, they intensified their threats, telling me to mind my own business or else they would do something bad to me. Their reaction let me completely recognize a cruel fact. In front of interests, in front of power, the so-called affection and morality, but all is a piece of paper. In order to maintain their own status and wealth, they have lost the most basic conscience and humanity, and even go so far as to make enemies of their own flesh and blood. This realization plunged me into deep despair and confusion. I began to doubt the reason why I embarked on the path of revenge and whether I was capable of assuming this great responsibility. I even began to blame myself, believing that it was my own selfishness and stubbornness that led to the breakup of my family. Just when I was about to give up, I remembered something Cassidy once said to me. He said that true courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to face it despite knowing it. True justice is not a smooth ride, but the ability to stand up for what you believe in spite of all the obstacles. These words, like a bright light, illuminated the lost path in my heart. I finally realized that the reason why I was struggling and uncertain was because I had not really let go of my attachment to the past and had not really established my own values in life. What I need is not to run away and retreat, but to bravely face my heart and accept the price of revenge. Only through these pains and struggles can I truly grow and find my own path. So, with renewed vigor, I continued to move forward with my plan. I realized that I could not let my personal feelings interfere with the realization of justice, and I could not let criminals go free. Even if I had to pay a huge price for it, even if I had to take the blame, I would do it. Because I know that this vengeance is not only for me, but also for all those who have been hurt and deceived by our family. Only when the truth is uncovered and justice is done can they be vindicated and comforted. And I, too, can only be truly liberated and free when I fulfill this mission. After that, I was no longer plagued by inner torment. I made my goal and direction clear and gave it my all. No matter how difficult the road ahead is, I will keep going until the final victory. After much inner struggle and suffering, I finally made my final decision. At a family meeting, I exposed all the crimes of my father and elder brother in front of everyone. I listed their tax evasion, bribery, money laundering, and other crimes, and presented the corresponding evidence and materials. Everyone in the room was shocked by this sudden revelation. The board members looked at each other in disbelief. My father and elder brother were furious, pointing their noses at me and accusing me of being an ungrateful and unscrupulous scum. They threatened to sever all ties with me and to expel me from the family. I am undaunted by their threats and accusations. I was ready to break with them, and I no longer needed their protection and support. I told them that I chose to expose the truth precisely because I could no longer tolerate their sin and hypocrisy, and that I would defend my conscience and principles with my actions. My speech won the support of many board members. They said that the company could no longer be led by such people, and that it must be completely reformed and cleaned up. They demanded that my father and elder brother be removed from their positions immediately, and that an investigation and audit be conducted. My father and my elder brother tried to make a last-ditch effort by threatening the directors who supported me with some kind of leverage. But this time, their tricks no longer work. In front of ironclad evidence, in the case of the situation has gone, their resistance seems so powerless and ridiculous. In the end, the board of directors passed a resolution to remove my father and my elder brother from all their positions and to transfer them to the judicial authorities. I, on the other hand, won the power struggle and became the new family leader. But I am not complacent, on the contrary. I feel a heavier responsibility on my shoulders. I want to lead my family out of the darkness, rebuild our credibility, and win the respect of the society. At the same time, I have to do my best to make amends and appease those who have been hurt by us, even if it may cost a lot of money and resources. I know that this is a long and difficult road. I may encounter many obstacles and challenges, and may be subject to many criticisms and attacks. But there is no way back for me. I can only move forward bravely and prove that I have made the right decision with practical actions. Over the next few days, I began to reorganize the family business. I cleaned up operations that were suspected of violating the law, brought in outside independent directors, and established internal controls and oversight mechanisms. I also drastically eliminated redundant staff, optimized the business structure, and improved the company's efficiency. Although these initiatives have had a certain impact on the company's performance in the short term, they have laid the foundation for sustainable development in the long term. At the same time, I began to re-examine my life. In the storm, I lost not only my family, but also my once proud position and reputation. However, I did not feel depressed, but felt more relaxed and free than ever before. I could finally take off my disguise and be my true self. I began to think about what is the real meaning and value of life. Is it to chase after power, money, and fame? Or to dare to take responsibility, dare to take charge, use your own strength to create value, to help others? I gradually found my own answer, that is, to use the limited life, to do some unlimited cause, to bring some changes to the world. As a result, I have devoted more energy to charitable and philanthropic endeavors. I set up my own foundation to subsidize education and medical services in poor areas. I have also been actively involved in various social activities, calling attention to the disadvantaged and fighting against discrimination and inequality. Gradually, I found my value and belonging in these endeavors. I realized that the meaning of life is not how much you have, but how much you give. I am glad that despite all the trials and tribulations, I have finally found a path that belongs to me. In the coming days, I will continue to walk on this road. I believe that as long as we adhere to the correct values and maintain noble sentiments, we will be able to continue to transcend ourselves and create miracles. And those who have been hurt and betrayal will eventually become my wealth, become an important encounter in my life. After a series of storms and changes, a new chapter in my life has finally begun. I am no longer a businessman who only knows how to chase after power and money, but a social leader with a sense of responsibility. I began to use my influence and resources to help those in need and to promote social progress and development. My foundation is growing and our programs are spreading all over the country in various fields such as education, healthcare, and environmental protection. We have built school after school for children in impoverished areas and provided free medical services to those who have no access to treatment. We have also initiated a variety of environmental protection actions, calling on people to pay attention to the natural ecology to protect the home on which we live. Through these efforts, I have gained the support and love of many ordinary people. They praised me as a conscientious and responsible entrepreneur and a model and role model of this era. Hearing these praises, my heart is full of comfort and touching. I understand that this is the greatest recognition and encouragement for me, and also the motivation for me to continue to move forward. In the process, I have made many like-minded friends. They come from all walks of life, including entrepreneurs, scholars, and artists. We often get together to exchange ideas and insights and discuss how we can make greater contributions to society. I see the same ideals and sentiments in them, which is very encouraging and inspiring to me. Little by little, my life changed. I was no longer a lonely fighter, but had a group of trustworthy companions. I began to learn to enjoy life and experience the beauty of life. I restarted some hobbies that I had once given up, such as reading, traveling, and sports. These activities relax and delight my body and mind, and give me a sense of peace and happiness that I have not experienced for a long time. At a charity dinner, I met Sophie, a renowned journalist known for exposing the dark side of society. We became friends at first sight. We often attend events together, discussing current affairs and sharing life lessons. As our relationship deepened, our feelings gradually warmed up. I realized that Sophie was not only a good journalist, but also a kind, honest, and thoughtful woman. I was deeply impressed by her courage and sense of justice. She was also impressed by my experiences and ideals, and said I was the most special person she had ever met. Finally, in a romantic night, we confessed our feelings to each other. At that moment, I felt incredibly happy and satisfied. I knew that after so much suffering and trials, I had finally found my own happiness. From now on, I will work hand in hand with Sophie towards a brighter future. When I look back at the past, I have a lot of feelings. Once, I thought I had everything, but I never thought that one day I would lose it all. But it was in this process that I really found myself and the meaning of life. I realized that true happiness and joy does not lie in how much you have, but in how much you can give and how much value you can create for the world. In the days to come, I will continue to uphold this philosophy, and together with Sophie, we will strive for our common ideals. I believe that as long as we stick to the right path and keep our hearts in the right place, we will be able to create a better world where more people can enjoy dignity and happiness. Dear reader, thank you for your patience in listening to my story. I share this with you in the hope that I can give some inspiration and encouragement to those who are lost and uncertain. I want you to know that no matter what kind of difficulties and challenges you are facing, don't give up hope so easily. Because as long as you harbor good intentions and adhere to the right path, you will one day find your own direction in the midst of suffering and harvest your own happiness in the midst of frustration. Together, with love and wisdom, let's light up the world and create miracles. Let us walk hand in hand and write the most beautiful chapter of our lives together. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.